Hey, what is up, you guys? It is Xantho here, and I'm actually releasing a video. I know it's been a couple months since I released a video, but I know no one actually gives a shit because I'm kind of a small-time YouTuber. It's not like if Zizarin, went AWOL for 2 months, so that would be a huge deal. But me, no one really gives a shit. So, I got 5 starter builds for 3.18. These are basically the same starter builds you see from 3.17, mostly because there's been no balance changes. Other than a couple of bug fixes, specifically to that flame wall bug that was doing way more damage than it should have been doing. But other than that, the meta should be the exact same. The first build on my list is RF Inquisitor. I recommend a guy by the name of Pox. He's basically kind of the preeminent expert on Righteous Fire. Captain Lance also does pretty good Righteous Fire build, but Pox is kind of the OG of Righteous Fire when it comes to guides and kind of being an expert on the topic. So he has an RF Inquisitor. He has a very, very detailed guide. He's got a whole spreadsheet with information, crafting stuff, a very extensive FAQ section. Just fantastic all around. If you really want to league start something like Righteous Fire, which is pretty fun, it's Righteous Fire plus Fire Trap. Caps out at about 3 to 4 million Shaper DPS, like 10 to 15 Exalt investment. You can probably push 5 or 6 million with like Vol RF for short periods of time, and with much better gear. But 10 to 15 Exalts, you can expect 3 to 4 million DPS, 1.8 thousand net regen. 86,000 effective hit pool, which is pretty damn good for a league starter, especially with only like 10 to 15 exalts. But that is a little bit more investment than a league starter usually does. But that's like, maybe a few days, a week into the league, maybe you can expect this level of performance, which is pretty solid. So RF Inquisitor is one of my options. Next we have Explosive Trap Sab. This is a bit off meta. I league started this last league, and it was fantastic. It took me through everything, did everything I wanted it to. I ran it over Seismic Trap. I actually did do Seismic Trap in the middle of the league. I league started as Explosive Trap Sab, and then I made an Inquisitor Seismic Trap character, and then I switched back to Explosive Trap on the Inquisitor, and the Inquisitor was just amazing. I think I have it right here. It should be somewhere in here, right here. This is the build I made from scratch. It is a Explosive Trap Inquisitor, has about 25 million DPS, effective hit pool of like 400,000. Uses Aegis Aurora, and that effective hit pool does not count regen, which it really should count regen. When we're talking hitting damage over a sustained period, so it can actually take more hits than 400,000. Well, I mean, its maximum hit taken is only 70,000, but it's still a pretty good maximum hit damage taken. And if you want to get a bit more tanky, you would swap out Arden's Anguish for like let me make a belt real quick. Let's do like a Stygian Vise with life. And then Warlord. Where's the life regeneration rate? Life recovery rate? I think it's just life recovery rate. 12% life recovery rate. And then I think I need to put some fire res on this. So if we swap that out, our hit pool goes up to 456,000 because we're getting our endurance charges back, because I'm using Arden's Anguish and Enduring Composure to generate endurance charges. Because I really have no avoidance at all. I have 957 evasion rating. I do have a lot of avoidance in block and spell block, so 74-75 block spell block. But that's damage avoidance, but you're still getting hit, which means you're going to be generating endurance charges from Enduring Composure, which means you're going to be generating brutal charges for Arden's Anguish. So that drops us to like 20 million DPS versus 25 million, but you gain a pretty solid amount of EHP, so you can go that option if you want. I will link that in the description as like kind of like a League Enders type build. But explosive trap, I would suggest going with Sab first. You can technically start as an Inquis and just start running it from the get-go. It's possible, especially because Inquisitor is closer, a lot closer to Avatar of Fire, and you need that full 100% conversion to fire so you can scale your damage better. So that's an option. I mean, you could level something else and switch over to Explosive Trap in like Act 3 when you get access to Explosive Trap on an Inquisitor, Templar. But it won't be leveled, so you probably would have to wait until like maybe level 50 or 60 to switch to Explosive Trap when it's actually leveled to the same level as the skill you would previously be leveling with. And that would probably level with, like, I don't know, Armageddon Brand or something, you know, Armageddon Brand, Cremation. Classic spellcaster leveling. And they would be picking up basically the same nodes as, you know, Avatar of Fire. It wouldn't be picking up Avatar of Fire, but it would be picking up the same, you know, like fire damage nodes and yada 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 yada. Small respec. But you could start as that, but I suggest Brittle Knees Saboteur. It's a great League starter. It doesn't have a massive hit pool. This is a little bit deceptive because I don't remember what it was, but there was something in the settings that I had to select, and it was a bit deceptive. It's actually a higher hit pool than that. Oh yeah, because they don't have. She didn't put in elemental resistance, so let's just do plus 3% to all elemental resistances. So that jumps up to 40,000 effective hit pool, which is pretty solid for a League starter. And this is like really, really bad gear. Like I'm talking, this is just +1 spell damage and then crafted trap throwing speed, a Box Pillar, an Ash Rend, a Zeri's Step, life res, life res, and then an anoint, not anoint, an enchant. So this is like pretty bad gear, like really bad gear. And we're still doing about 2.2 million DPS. I think I adjusted this a slight bit. No, it's 2.2 million DPS because you got to turn off the enfeeble from. Oh, my cat's meowing in the other room. Turn off the enfeeble from Box Pillar, and then don't go flammability, but go for Assassin's Mark, which is great. So yeah, like 2 to 3 million DPS on like day 1, day 2 gear with 40k effective hit pool, 21,000 evasion rating, a little bit of armor, 5.5k total life. It's pretty solid. It's pretty solidly tanky for like day 1 gear. Because this pretty much is day 1 gear. Like this is like really bad stuff. Now this is using level 20 gems. Switch to late game. You can push higher and you probably get an extra explosion here, so you probably push like 3.5 million DPS with in-game gear. And then she also has an upgraded version which probably has like 7.5 to 8 million DPS. And I have a little thing here, 65% more trap throwing speed, because that's the level 21 that's basically the level 21 God, what is it called? Oh my god. Swift Assembly. It all throws an average 1.6 traps per throw, and then level 21 throws on average 0.65 traps per throw. So and then charge traps. It's weird having Swift Assembly and charge traps over like cluster traps, but it's simply more DPS. And charge traps is amazing because it gives you power charges and frenzy charges and sustains them on bosses really well. And gives you traps throwing speed per frenzy charge and crit multiplier per power charge. And I've tried a lot of different combinations of skill gems to replace charge traps and then simply take these charges away. And I found that nothing really beats charge traps. It's just a fantastic support gem. So definitely use charge traps in Swift Assembly. Go with Lyra early. But Brittany has a full video on that. I will link that in the description. I'll also link Pox's guide for his RF quiz. What's next on the agenda? Seismic Trap Sap. I do not have a POB for this, but you can simply look up on the Gauntlet for like Darky / Lady / Ben's version of the build. He had a really good one for solo stuff on Hardcore, which had solid DPS. It was going Poison. There's lots of guides out there for Poison, Seismic Trap Sap, so you can probably find one pretty easy. DD Ignite Necro is another option. This is one from DS Lily. That's been updated. It is an Ignite build. Very tanky. Very tanky. 219 effective hit pool. This was pretty solid gear though. So you're definitely not going to have all of this gear. And you're definitely not going to have 100% spell suppression early on. So, because there's lots of spell suppression rolls on the gear here. I wish, actually she does have endgame and GG endgame. Doesn't really have like a beginner, Leaguestarter environment gears item set. But DD Ignite Necro is a really good option. Its bossing is very consistent. Deals good Ignite DPS, very tanky. Clear is so-so. Requires a bit of aiming, but overall it's a pretty good build. Next we have EA Ballista Champ. Now this is Zizarin's version. This is explosive arrow ballistas. This is using totems, of course, because ballistas. And I think he takes... There should be an accuracy rating thing he didn't take here because it hasn't been updated for 3.17. This was created in 3.16. But regardless, this has great DPS for the investment. Like, this is like really bad gear. Or pretty bad gear. This bow is pretty solid, but everything else is very basic. So it's got full leveling guides, full leveling notes. Everything is pretty good. Lots of information. Those are the 5 I would recommend. I'm going to link every one in the description, other than the Seismic Trap Sap, because there's already a bunch of guides out there and I couldn't really find a specific one I wanted to link to. So I'll just basically leave it at that. Hope you guys find something that you haven't played before and want to play something. This is basically kind of a redundant video. People have already made these videos, a lot of them. But this is simply my take and the ones I would go with. I think I'm actually going to start with Explosive Trap Sap again, because I had such good success with it last league, and you can run Explosive Trap right off the bat, right from the get-go. I was either Explosive Trap or EA Ballista, as I've actually not played EA Ballista yet. I know it was really good, but I'm more comfortable with Explosive Trap Sap leveling, so I might just go with Explosive Trap Sap anyway. So that's probably going to be my option, honestly, because I'm comfortable with it, know how to level it, know how to gear it, and it gets really good results. And the bossing can be pumped up into really, really good damage. So, and then it can be transitioned into an Inquisitor to be into an endgame version if you want to level an Inquisitor and switch over from Sap to from Shadow to Templar. So those are my 5 options. Take of it what you will, but that's basically it, and peace out.